It'll help us out a lot. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Continue to listen. It's the Minority Men Show.
There are people dying and children crying, and as the earth spins, so do our lives. Can anybody see? Or do we miss the point entirely? There are those in need who have mouths to feed, but we choose to wait while they waste away. How can we let this be? Is there anyone who feels just like me? Oh yes. Is there anyone who feels just like me? There are those confused who have been abused, and they feel so used up by once they choose. Why do they live that way? There are those who try to reach mountains high, but they go astray and they lose their way. Can they be free? Is there anyone who feels just like me? Oh, is there anyone who feels just like me? Change the world. There is hunger, crime, disease, and strife. We can't face it all. Oh, is there anyone? Is there anyone? Yeah.
Transportation. Let me be your designated driver. We do downtown Boston drop-offs and pickups to and from the club or your function. Let us be your designated driver. For 10 or more people, that's $30 per person, round trip. Less than 10 people, $35 per person, round trip. Now servicing the Rosendale, Dorchester, Roxbury, Quincy, Braintree, and Brighton area. We also have wheelchair access. Transportation to daycare and after-school programs are available. For more information, make that call, 857-350-7015. Purcell & Son Transportation. We also do early morning rides to work starting at 4:30 a.m. We also have business and event advertising available on the rear of the bus. Make that call, 857-350-7015. Purcell & Son Transportation. Let us be your designated driver.
This is Andrew Purcell from Purcell & Son Transportation. Let me be your designated driver. Coming soon. Regular trips from Boston to New York. Make that call now.
Welcome back to the Minority Men Show. We're here with Miss Adaiah Rojos, telling her story. I mean, I can't say much. I'm just going to turn it back to her.
Yes, so getting back, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, and these lovely people for making me feel so comfortable. So yes, so I confide in a friend of mine at school, and the way it happened, I had a picture of my brother and my father, and I was just gazing at this picture, and my friend saw that there was something wrong with me, so she asked, what was wrong, and I heard her feelings. I told her to, mind her business and to leave me alone, and so me seeing that I heard her feelings, I apologized, and I asked her that if she would keep it a secret and, not to say anything, that I would, I swore her to secrecy. And she said, yeah. So I confide in her, and she just went silent, and she said, sorry that you had to go through that. And so the next day at school, she asked, hey, do you want to spend the weekend? My mom wants to know. I said, you told your mom, didn't you? And she put her head down and she nodded her head, and she says, I just couldn't keep that to myself. And so that weekend I spent the weekend at her house. Sunday morning, when it was time for my mother to pick me up, before that we went to a church service, and so happens that the service was about children that were violated, and don't remember the service too clear, but anyhow, I just felt like there was like a conspiracy, or there was like something, like her mother had spoken to the pastor or something. So I was just very bothered. And her mother, seeing this, when we got to the house, she sat down with me and she says, please, I don't want you to think that I spoke to my minister about what had happened to you. I really didn't. Holly spoke with me and told me what happened to you, and I just want you to know that it's not your fault. And what I replied to this woman was that, I knew it wasn't my fault. And she explained to me that we would have to tell my mother. And I was just very fearful, because my stepfather and my mother had been trying to conceive a child for some years, I want to say 10 years at that time, 11 years. And so my mother was 2 months pregnant. So I was so worried that in telling my mother this news, that she would, lose my, my first baby sister. And
you didn't want to upset her because...
I didn't want to upset her. And so I couldn't bring myself, when my mother got there, and, this woman began to speak to my mother. My mother just had this look of panic, like, get it over and done with, what's going on. And I just remember my mom saying, what did you do? And I'm like, I didn't, my friend's mother says, she didn't do anything. It's what was done to your daughter. And she says, what do you mean? And
now, I'm sorry not to cut you, but how did that make you feel, hearing that initially from your mother?
Were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, because I wasn't really, because I was always doing something out there that I wasn't supposed to do. So, it was like a natural reaction, like, what did you do now? So, but it, when I couldn't bring myself to say anything, she says, your daughter was molested by her father. And my mother, I remember my mother pushing forward on the couch and like saying, pointing to the car, like, your stepdad? I'm like, no, mommy. And when I said, no, mommy, it wasn't my stepfather, it was kind of like life just came out of my mom, and she just broke down crying, and she says, wow, he tried to take my life, and he destroyed my baby's life. Those are my mom's words.
I'm touched that you had the strength to continue, and you have the strength now to want to express that story, because you are helping so many individuals out there, and I'm just happy that you're here on the Minority Men Show and you're telling your story, because it's so essential. And I want people out there to really listen to the story and take heed to what you're saying, because the signs are there. And we get so caught up and so lost in these signs. When your child is telling you something, it might be telling you indirectly. You know, you have to listen to your child. Now, as a parent now, I know I'm jumping the gun, but what signs would you look for within your daughter understanding your situation?
Adaiah, may I? I have a quick question. I was on a website the other day, and it was listing some consequences of child sexual abuse. I just want to run down the list and see if you can relate to any of them. If you do, can you say yes?
Yes.
All right, or yes or no. Chronic depression.
Yes.
Low self-esteem.
Yes.
Sexual dysfunction.
Yes.
Multiple personalities, or like trying to get away.
Yes. I went through that identity as a child.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you know,
Trying to find that identity and who you are. I went through that.
Was
as
it
a
hard
child.
for you to find out?
All right, she going to answer my question?
Yeah.
I know. I was about to say, getting back
And,
to public, getting back to
Another
public
question.
question.
So
Do you
with that,
remember-
and as a mother, I just asked the right questions.
You asked the right question.
I asked the right questions. I don't beat around the bush. I don't wait around to look for signs, because sometimes a child is good at hiding signs, and I was one of those girls that was good at hiding very well.
Okay. Now, for the parents, what are the signs should you tell them to look for?
For the parents, I would say withdrawal,
Okay.
lack of eating, or it could even be excessive eating. I love food, so I was an excessive eater. I would go back and forth with the excessive eating, not eating, locking myself in the room in the dark. I also was like an attention seeker. I would write certain letters and leave them around for my mom to find them and think the worst of me, when really they were just fake letters that I was writing just to get some type of attention.
Okay.
How did you heal as an adult?
Well, writing has always been a part of my life.
Yeah.
I've been writing since I was 3 years old. I want to say just being able to write and have the use of my phalanges and my hands and my mind, you know, and just hearing, you know, music. I love music, you know, and I'm very, very, very picky and selective when it comes to hip hop and R&B. Very.
Something that really touched me was that I was a psych major when I was in college, and so, you know, there's a lot of studies that people typically don't remember. They don't remember things past like 5 or 6. So for you to remember something at 4, I had to, you know, that's deep. And for me, as you guys know, I have a daughter. So and people making fun of me when I don't let her. If she cries more than a minute, I know that something's wrong. So I typically don't like to leave her with anyone, or not to, because it only takes, I mean, I think it's like 1 in 4 women are assaulted, and it takes like 10 seconds, you know what I mean, to like whip out your penis and show it, you know, or just do something fondle. So for me, I mean, I just feel like it breaks my heart to leave my daughter, because she's so nonverbal right now. And so the signs that she shows is if she's crying, I can't do it. And
I bet it's more than 1 out of 4 too. I bet it's
And
more
intuition, a mother's intuition never lies, you know.
Yep.
A mother's intuition, don't ever go against that motherly intuition, you know, and ask questions, you know, talk to your children, you know, my reason wanting to come forth with my story, and you know, it's like I don't want to hold nothing back, you know. I just want to be as real as possible, as my story is my story, and can no one tell my story better than what I can. And so I just know, you know, this I've been going to church